Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. HOA illegally towed my car from my private garage. Our HOA has always been sketchy, but this time they crossed a line so ridiculous it almost felt like a parody. Back in September, I came home from work and immediately knew something was wrong. My car was gone. Not from the curb, not from a visitor spot, from inside my private, closed garage. At first, I thought it had been stolen. Heart pounding, I checked the security footage. The footage showed a tow truck entering with the code, backing into the garage, the HOA has universal access, and hauling my car away. No knock, no call, just gone. Naturally, I was furious. I called the HOA board, assuming this had to be some kind of mistake. Instead, I was met with smug, vague responses. They said my car was in violation of county codes, refused to elaborate, and flat out shut down any questions. No violation notice, no warning, nothing, just bureaucratic silence and a stolen car. So I did what any sane, moderately legal savvy person would do. I lawyered up and filed a lawsuit. I went after both the HOA and the tow company, because here's the thing. The CC&Rs, the rules governing our community, are crystal clear. The only consequence for a parking-related issue is a $100 fine. Not towing, not impoundment, and certainly not trespassing into my private garage and removing property. Then came the twist that turned this into a slam dunk. During discovery, the HOA submitted a photograph of a violation notice supposedly placed on my windshield. One problem, they forgot to scrub the photo's metadata. It clearly showed the image had been taken the day after my car was towed. They'd forged a violation after the fact. Rookie mistake. In court, the judge reviewed the timeline, the metadata, and the footage. The HOA's representative nervously claimed the roads in the neighborhood are actually county-owned, which gives us the authority. The judge didn't let him finish. She slammed her gavel. That's enough. The HOA is not authorized to tow vehicles under these conditions, not from private garages, not from private driveways, not anywhere without proper process, and certainly not in contradiction to your own CC&Rs. Then she looked at their attorney and said, "You will reimburse the plaintiff for the full $2,400 tow bill immediately." She turned to me and added, "And I strongly suggest you file a separate claim for the loss of use and any damage." Just when I thought things couldn't get any better, the tow truck driver, who had the gall to sit there smirking, leaned back and said, "Fine, we'll just leave the car parked outside our yard." His problem now. I asked the judge, "Can you order the car be returned to my property?" The courtroom went still. The judge stood up from her bench, literally stood, and pointed directly at the driver. "If he wants you to tow it across the country to New York, you will do it, and the HOA will pay for it. You're lucky you're not being charged with grand theft auto." And then the moment that sealed this saga into legend, the HOA manager tried to interject with some last-minute excuse. The judge turned towards the bailiff and said, with the kind of calm authority you only see in movies, "Bailiff, arrest him." Yes, they arrested the HOA manager on the spot. Everyone in the courtroom just stared. My lawyer whispered, "Holy crap," under his breath, and I couldn't stop smiling. The car delivered right back to my garage in better condition than when they took it. I've got a small claims case coming up for loss of use and minor scuffs from the impound lot. But even if I win nothing, I already got my real victory. Because that moment, standing in the courtroom watching the gavel fall and justice snap into place like a well-oiled gear, was priceless. And now, thanks to a firm legal precedent, our HOA is legally barred from towing anyone's vehicle again. Period. Turns out reading your CC&Rs, installing a camera, and knowing when to call a lawyer pays off. And I'm still parking my car in that garage, right where it belongs. Oh man, that would make the best Christmas card cover ever. The defeated look on the faces of the HOA manager and tow company driver when the judge laid the smackdown. In the 90s, I had the best credit card you've never heard of. Back in the late 1990s, I was doing my banking at Solomon Smith Barney, which had a unique credit card. It wasn't a normal credit card or a debit card. It was a true credit card that wouldn't let you spend more than what you had in your checking account. This meant the money was earmarked but not deducted until the due date. One day I needed a cashier's check for $1,500 and went to a branch of my personal bank, rhymes with Bells Bargo, across town, not Solomon Smith Barney. I had to go to the customer service desk and request a cashier's check, planning to pay with my Solomon Smith Barney credit card. The lady at the desk, who was not particularly kind, snapped at me saying, "You can't put a cashier's check on a credit card." I understood her reasoning, but her attitude was unnecessary. Desperate to get the cashier's check, I argued a bit, but she was adamant and almost seemed to enjoy my predicament. Then she asked if there was anything else she could help with. I slid my credit card back to her and asked for a cash advance of $1,500. Back then, they used the old manual credit card imprint machine, so she had to go through the tedious process of imprinting my card, getting the paperwork approved, and doling out the cash. Once I had the $1,500 and $100 bills in my hand, she asked if there was anything else she could do. I said yes, I needed a cashier's check for $1,500. She started to repeat her earlier refusal, but stopped mid-sentence when she realized I now had the cash. Dumbfounded, she had no choice but to process my cashier's check. I walked out with the check in hand, feeling very satisfied with outsmarting her and getting what I needed despite her initial refusal. It's a story I've cherished for decades. Edit. Some people have questioned whether or not I understand the difference between a debit and a credit card. Oh, I do. I also have a good memory. I remember how cool this card was. I know how credit card advances money with exorbitant cash advance fees that you're liable to pay back by a certain day each month. I know that you pay a late charge if you don't pay your minimum on the due date versus a debit card. The money's taken out of your account, ACH, immediately. Enter this cool card. Never interest or late charges because the credit card company pulled the money from your checking account once a month on the due date. Although that money was still in the checking account earning interest, it was not available for withdrawal and was not part of the available balance. Worked as an ATM card, but with a limit. I don't remember how much, something around $800, but it also worked as a card that I could get a cash advance. And back then, there was no cash advance fee. Yes, I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. And it was the nice people at my Solomon Smith Barney bank that told me about this trick. Again, it was the 90s. The limit on cash advance was higher than that of the ATM limit. I think it was about a $2,000 limit, but I don't remember exactly. This credit card also offered reward points. I used the trips to get a Bose Wave radio and 2 round-trip airline tickets to Lisbon, Portugal. I never heard of a debit card that offered reward points. So yes, I know this card had unusual rules and rewards, but it was the 90s and Solomon Smith Barney was a brokerage house, not a bank, so this account had unusual perks. I miss this account. If it was still available, I would have one. And this wasn't a debit card, this was a true credit card. It offered everything that a credit card did, including reward points. I've never heard of a debit card that had reward points. It's like the story of the old lady that goes to the bank. She wants to withdraw $50. The bank teller says any withdrawal less than $200 has to be at the ATM. She doesn't know how to use the ATM, so she withdraws $200 and then immediately deposits $150 cash back into the account. Those kinds of rules are just stupid. And our last story. Neighbor blocked my lake easement with a wall. I own a home with a deeded walkway easement down to a lake. It's not vague, it's explicitly detailed in my deed, shows up on the land survey, is mentioned in the original purchase agreement, and even exists in my neighbor Greg's purchase paperwork. The easement's been used for decades without issue. It's a 10-foot strip of land, just wide enough for a modest set of stairs to the water. Enter Greg. 4 years ago, Greg moved in next door with what I can only describe as an industrial-strength ego and a superiority complex to match. He had a prime lot, sprawling lake frontage, private dock, the works. Meanwhile, my easement wasn't even near his dock. It just happened to run alongside part of his land, and apparently that was enough to offend his sense of territorial perfection. One day, I walked out to use the path, and it was gone. My stairs torn out. In their place, a freshly mortared cinder block wall. Greg had built his own little fortress of petty right across the only legal access I had to the lake. No warning, no letter, no conversation. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A contractor went rogue, misread the boundaries, so I walked over to talk to Greg, thinking a neighborly conversation would resolve it. Nope. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "That's not yours anymore." I was dumbfounded. Greg, the easement's in both of our deeds. It's not optional. He shrugged. I don't care. You can call your lawyer if you want to. And so I did. The legal slog begins. What followed was 4 years of the most drawn-out, petty legal battle imaginable. Greg and his wife played every game in the book, ignoring legal correspondence, switching lawyers mid-case, requesting delays for flimsy reasons, filing frivolous motions, even trying to throw shade at the validity of the easement, despite having signed paperwork acknowledging it when they bought the place. Meanwhile, I just kept paying my attorney, depositions, motions, endless paperwork. At times, it felt like they were trying to drag this out until I gave up or went broke. But I didn't back down. I wasn't asking for anything unreasonable, just to restore something I legally owned. And I had the law, the paperwork, and frankly, common sense on my side. Then came the victory. 3 months ago, we finally got a summary judgment. The judge ruled decisively in my favor. No trial even needed. His order was clear. Greg had 30 days to remove the wall and rebuild my stairs exactly where they were. Cue the sad trombone. Greg wasn't done. He filed a motion for judicial error, claiming the judge had misunderstood the facts. The motion was denied. Again, the court confirmed the ruling, tear it down, rebuild the stairs. But Greg still couldn't accept defeat. He filed an appeal. At this point, it wasn't even about the land. By now, I was convinced Greg's only goal was to drain me financially. It was no longer about the easement. It was about ego, about pride, about refusing to lose. He didn't need the land. He didn't use it. He just didn't want me to have it. It was 10 feet of access he'd never walk on, but he'd burn thousands to block it. Meanwhile, I kept every record, attended every hearing, and stayed patient. And then, finally, checkmate. Last week, I got the call I'd been waiting for. My lawyer's voice was calm, almost amused. The appeal was dismissed, he said. You won, again, and this time it's final. Greg's now legally obligated to remove the wall and reconstruct the original stairs within 30 days. If he doesn't, I can hire a contractor myself, submit the bill to the court, and it'll be enforced against him. If he ignores the final order, the court will hold him in contempt. That could mean fines or even jail time. I never wanted it to come to this, but after 4 years, I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel satisfying. Unexpected silver lining. Here's the part I didn't expect. The neighbor noticed. As this battle dragged on, neighbors started asking questions, curious ones at first. Hey, what's going on with that wall? Then more supportive. That guy's a jerk. We're rooting for you. Some folks who I'd never spoken to offered to help with paperwork, write statements, even lend me a hand if Greg ever followed through on the order. We've since started gathering on weekends by the lake. A couple even offered to help rebuild the stairs if I ended up needing the help. I went through hell for 4 years over something that should have never been an issue, all because Greg tried to gatekeep a lake. But in the end, I get my access back. 4 years of legal jousting just to get back what was yours all along? That takes stamina. Greg basically spent your HOA dues on a cinder block vanity project while you quietly compiled every deed, survey, and email until the courts finally said nope. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.